House Democrats have decided to do away with legislation that would give themselves a raise. And part of the reason why they've made this decision is because there are vulnerable Democrats in swing districts who are concerned that giving themselves a raise would not play well with the constituents. Close to a dozen vulnerable swing district Democratic freshmen had submitted or co-sponsored amendments to block the pay raise, underscoring the sensitivity of the issue. So I want to give you some numbers, because if members of Congress, who by the way still haven't increased the minimum wage to a living wage, were making $50,000 a year, and then they were expected to live in their hometown or wherever they were elected, and then constantly travel back and forth to Washington, D.C., and they need to have a place in Washington, D.C., I get it. But they're making damn near $200,000, okay? So let me give you the numbers. First off, members of Congress have had their pay frozen since 2009. So this is the reason why some members of the House want to increase or give themselves a raise. But some lawmakers in recent years, including House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, have advocated for returning to the annual cost of living adjustments, meaning, hey, let's adjust our pay based on inflation, right?
So by the way, I have a plan to fix this, so we'll get to that in a second.
Okay, so I want to skip ahead and give you a sense of how much they're actually making. Rank and file members of Congress currently earn $174,000 per year. Members of leadership, though, can earn more, with the Speaker making $223,500 annually, and the House Majority and Minority leaders earning $193,400. Now, I also want to draw your attention to a headline that I thought was relevant to this conversation. The typical US Congress member is 12 times richer than the typical American household. Also,
of course.
Yep, the median member of the US Congress was worth at least $1.1 million.
I'm surprised it's that low.
Yeah.
For them, I mean, for a regular person, that's an astounding amount of money.
Well, look, I was actually gonna, Steny Hoyer wants this raise, and I was gonna get a little salty with him. But then I looked into his net value or net worth, and I was pretty shocked to find that his net worth is $76,000. Now,
no.
Yes, that's according to Open Secrets.
That can't be true.
There is a little caveat though. They do not have to report the value of their home, right? So he might have a home that's worth a lot of money. I don't know. You're not forced to disclose that, and it's not included in your net value. But in this case, it is for everyone else. Like if you're being analyzed by a bank for a loan, of course they're gonna include that. But in the case of members of Congress, they don't include that.
It's inconceivable that he has that little money.
Yeah,
no
it
way,
seems weird.
No way. I don't know where he's keeping it, okay? But now let's talk about the essence of the issue though. Look, there actually is a reason to give them raises if things were working normal, which they're not anywhere near normal. So, for example, if we banned private financing of elections and we have public financing, and we've got representatives that are actually working for us, but you can't ban lobbying, not really, right? So then they're gonna have an incentive to actually become lobbyists and make 10 times as much or 5 times as much, et cetera. And AOC has made this point. Well, okay, if we're gonna ban them from becoming lobbyists, as her and Ted Cruz amazingly are working on together, then okay, you could raise their wages so that they don't have to be dying to go work as lobbyists and angling for that, et cetera. But right now the corruption is rampant.
Cenk.
So so this is not a situation where I would say oh my God, poor congressmen, they really need a raise.
There needs to be a law passed that prevents them from working as lobbyists, period, right? Because let me tell you something, there's no amount of money that we can give them in the form of a raise to dissuade them from working as lobbyists. They end up making millions in some cases as lobbyists. What, we're gonna pay them millions of dollars a year to do nothing in Congress?
No, I agree with that. But again, it's because the corruption is near 100% at this point. So if we could begin to fix the system, then I actually think that paying not only Congress, but their staffers a lot of money is not such a bad thing. About oh my God, I can't believe we're giving money to politicians. It's a lot better that we give it to them than they're incentivized to go join the bad guys and rip us off, because that'll cost us way more money. But now back to earth and the reality of today. Look, here's my simple proposal. How about we track congressional wages with the wages of the American workers.
Oh yeah.
So because wages have stagnated and flatlined for the last 40 years. So we'll give you as much of a raise as you've given us.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, now, and you can say, hey, no one congressman at any one time is responsible for the wages over the last 40 years, but is Congress largely responsible for that overall? Yes, because they're the ones who passed the laws saying you got to pay more in payroll tax, corporations have to pay less in taxes overall. I'm gonna deregulate the corporations, I'm gonna take away more and more collective bargaining rights from workers so you can't raise your wages. I'm gonna take corporate donor money and serve them and make sure that they can keep your wages incredibly low. No, so you did this. You created a situation where our wages haven't gone up in 40 years. So you'll excuse us if we don't shed a tear for your wages.
I need to give you a few more numbers because it just kind of blew my mind. So my assumption was, yeah, there are rich members of Congress, people who became wealthy before they were elected into office. And the majority of those people are Republicans, but that's not necessarily true. In fact, the numbers have been changing considerably in recent years. So first, the median net worth of a senator was $3.2 million versus $900,000 for members of the House of Representatives. So this is based on the same study that I had mentioned earlier, right? Now, if you look at Democrats versus Republicans on their wealth, look at this graph, it blew me away. All right, so if you look through the years, of course, Republicans were worth way more and Democrats were worth less. But as the years went on, between 2004 to 2015, at some point, Democrats actually became more wealthy than Republicans did.
So let me explain why that phenomenon is happening. Does that mean that the Democratic Party is becoming more corrupt? Partly, and so, but let's dive into the details. So the way that it works is, it's not that they make more money when they're in office. So for example, Joe Biden actually did not make very much money for a long, long time as he was a senator, because at that point, he couldn't cash in a lot of the ways that you can after you leave office. That's not what's happening. Largely what's happening is, they're originally picking richer people to run for office. So throughout the years, they kept picking richer and richer and richer people. Why? Because that's their main criteria for selection. I have a friend who thought about running for Congress in Virginia, and he went and talked all the way up to the governor and the head of the party in Virginia, and they never once asked him a policy question. They just asked, how much money do you have? Do you run a business? And how many rich people do you know? I'm not kidding and I'm not exaggerating. Because, we gotta raise money, we gotta raise money, we gotta raise money, we gotta raise money. Money, 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 money.
That's right.
So if a candidate has a lot of money or has run their own business, they're like, yes. If you're just a regular person, you run a cash register, you're a teacher, you're a plumber, they're like, Democratic Party's not gonna support you. In fact, we'll get us and our allies to spend a lot of money against you in the primaries, and that is how they weed out the average American, and that is how the Democratic Party got the label of being elitist. Even though the Republican Party supports positions and policies that are way more elitist, much more in favor of the rich, but Democrats have gone along with that quietly a lot of times, either by voting with them or quietly surrendering without a fight. That's because they're picking rich people to begin with, because of the corrupt system that we have. On the go, don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.